And then to walk into the market and just not even be competitive without losing all of your dignity, just really was not fun. But hello everyone, today we are going to do a quick kitchen project to preserve some zucchini, and I'm going to fill you guys in on why we've been so busy and all of the good stuff that is hopefully about to happen. So I have a really large pot here, and I'm just going to put it off to the side so I can start dumping veggies into it. But the real purpose of today is we're going to make vegetable bouillon, and I need to use up zucchini. This has to be the easiest thing I have ever grown. I neglected it, I planted it late, and they just took off. I didn't even think there was anything out there, and then I found these giant zucchinis. So I'm gonna do a double batch of the vegetable bouillon. I'll put the recipe down below if you wanna try this at home. But the recipe calls for 2 zucchinis for a single recipe, and I'm just gonna use one of these giant ones per recipe. And there's a lot of other veggies that go in it, so while we chop, we can talk. So we have been house hunting for not just a house, but something that can be our homestead for, you know, the foreseeable future. I'm sure this might not be our forever home, but it is at least our next 10, 15 years home. And so it's kind of a lot of pressure because, you know, we have all these goals in mind. And of course, in our first year, we won't be, you know, raising livestock quite yet, and all of that. But we want a property that we can do that on eventually. And so it's been a challenge. It's been really hard finding something that is not too far away, and that is affordable, and the market is really, really competitive still. We originally thought that maybe we wouldn't be shopping quite yet, and that we would wait a few more months, or maybe wait until after the baby was born. And then we found this property that was pretty local, and we thought that it was perfect. I mean, it had 2 acres and it wasn't very far, just all the right things. And so we jumped into the market, and we really kind of thought we were for sure gonna get it. I'm gonna pause for a minute. I'm actually not sure this is a zucchini. Maybe it's just a very, very huge zucchini. It is a little bit darker. Do you see it? I don't know if you can see the difference. All right, I set that one off to the side just until I can figure out what it is. I planted a variety pack from Azure that had some different squashes in it, and now I'm not sure what I got. Maybe it was just a really big zucchini, because I'm pretty sure this is a zucchini and it's starting to get the really big seeds too. So anyway, we tried to buy this house. We thought it was perfect. We thought it was meant for us, and we lost. We lost that bid pretty quickly. It was very surprising. The market here, everybody is bidding $20,000 to $30,000 over asking, and people are still waiving inspections sometimes, and a lot of the people who are bidding over asking have large appraisal gaps. And so just being a solid buyer and offering, asking, coming with all your closing costs, and, you know, just being your average person is not very competitive here, unfortunately. And so very quickly we ended up finding and losing a couple properties that we thought were absolutely perfect for us. And it was a lot of work to go and look at these places, and then it was really just discouraging that, you know, we worked really hard to be able to afford closing costs, to be able to afford a more expensive house, considering what interest rates are doing right now. And then to walk into the market and just not even be competitive without losing all of your dignity, just really was not fun. But we do have a very promising property right now that we are in talks for, and we're not really prepared to say exactly where that's at this moment, but I can say that it's going extremely well, and Lord willing, it will be our home. And it has a a lot of cool features about it. We've done kind of a poor job managing our excitement, but this property would allow us to eventually do some pastured animals. So we would like maybe a dairy cow, and hopefully some hogs. I think that would be really fun once we get our fencing figured out. I'm pretty obsessed with fencing. I used to work on horse farms, and I don't ever want to own animals that I don't have really good fences for, because there is nothing worse than chasing them at a really inopportune time, and we have small children, so I just know that I would have 4 kids in tow. It would be right after my husband left for work. But there's also a spot on this lot where we could do a huge, massive garden, as well as have a backyard in the back, and hopefully an orchard. That would be amazing, because fruit and kids, it's just so expensive. So anyway, all this to say, that is where I have been. We have been shopping for houses, getting our hearts broken, and now we have a very promising lead. And hopefully by the next video, we will be able to tell you that we are closing, but we just don't know yet, and it's a very finicky market. Next, I'm gonna add a few freezer goodies to this. I have these garlic cloves that are pre-chopped, but you really don't need this for this recipe. You could just use whole cloves, but this is all I have on hand. So those are gonna go in. Next, I use a whole bunch of parsley per recipe. So I'm gonna go for 2 bunches. Now we grew these, and I froze them just like this because I had this recipe in mind. So it's actually interesting to see, it's pretty intact still. It's not very mushy. I'm not sure how it would be if you cooked it up. I'm sure it would taste fine, but I'm just gonna cut the rubber banded ends off and into the pot with 2 of these. At the very end of this recipe, everything gets blended up, so you don't have to be worried about chopping it or anything. Lastly, I'm gonna add my carrots in here. I don't always peel them for this purpose, but these carrots are kind of getting a little bit old, so I'm just gonna get some of the stuff that's not perfect off of the edges here. We're at the very tail end of our groceries for this month, so we have Azure coming in next week, and we will have a fresh batch of carrots. I forgot to add a little bit of olive oil in the bottom of the pot in the beginning. I'm sure this will go down. It'll be fine. One thing about this recipe is you definitely don't want to add extra water. In goes celery. And I think I'm gonna use this big, oh, that was easier to break up than I thought it would be. I've had this big old clump. There, now it's kind of tricky. So I'm gonna start this slow and low because you don't want to add extra water to it. And what will happen eventually is the veggies, especially the zucchini in there, will start to release their moisture, and that will be plenty moisture to carry this whole project. You don't want to add too much water, or you will have a much runnier product in the end. So we're just gonna do it very low until it starts to steam a bit, and then you can turn the heat up as it starts to go. I've had this cooking for maybe 25-30 minutes now on a really low setting, and as you can see, it has cooked down quite a lot. I'm able to stir all the way into the bottom now, which is usually when I feel a little bit safer turning the heat up more, when I can make sure that nothing is scorching. And so my potatoes and my zucchini are pretty much soft, but I'm just waiting a little bit longer for these carrots. And then as soon as those carrots are soft, I will go ahead and add my salt and put it all in a blender. Here I have 7 ounces of salt that I'm gonna add. It is a lot of salt, but keep in mind this is a concentrated bouillon, so it's not too much. And I'm gonna stir this in, and then I'm gonna transfer this mixture over to a blender. All right, and here are my 2 trays of vegetable bouillon. I am just gonna pop these in the freezer, and then when they're firm, I will score them and break them up and put them in a plastic bag. They are usually really easy to cut because they do have some oil in there, and so yeah, they won't freeze rock solid. They will be easy to score with a knife, and then they store really well. We just got back from the park, so excuse my messy hair, but I did let these sit on the counter for a couple hours, just cooling down, and they firm up a bit, and then I pour them on the trays. And that way they're not so soupy when they go on the parchment paper, and also they don't heat up my freezer. So thank you all so much for joining. I'm gonna go pop these in the freezer, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.